Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Empowering Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm Glenn Harper.
Julie Smith.
What's going on, Julie?
You know, I'm really excited today for this episode.
What's going on?
We don't normally get someone in studio, and it's been a long time, but it is fun to interact in that situation.
Reach over and have a real person. It's kind of exciting.
Well, I feel like they're going to reveal her, like it's just us, and then they reveal it.
Oh, okay. Well, it's over here. Kidding. It's over here. Well, we're excited. Tax season's over. Summertime's we jumped right into summer from spring. Rain is falling, sun's shining, birds are singing. It's a good time to be alive.
And we're still here.
And we're still here.
We were just talking about the last time we had this guest in studio. Time flies. December
of 2022, which is many moons ago. Well, here we are. Well, we want to welcome again Maura Giannobile, a fellow entrepreneur who is the driving force behind the Home and Haven Company and Everwoods Cabins. She has helped many clients achieve their success of staying not only in an amazing experience in a cabin, but also designing their perfect dream home interiors. So welcome again to the show. Maura, good to see you.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me back.
Right. You must have been good. So I saw Maura. It's like we had this time apart podcast, had another house. She helped me with another house. We went to her cabin, did the podcast. Then we had this little bit of time apart. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, Maura, not only do I need your help for my interior design again, but I want to stay at your cabin again. And wait, why haven't you? I emailed all the people. I'm like, why hasn't she been back on the podcast? She's done so many things in this, what I thought was a shorter amount of time, but here we are.
Here we are. And you're one of actually many people that have experienced like all of our companies. So we've done interior design work together. You guys have stayed at our cabins. And it's funny because a lot of people who first stay at our cabins will then also reach out for, design help in their own homes and things like that. So the companies are starting to kind of intertwine as we go through the years here.
Was that the plan?
No, but it's been very nice. I have a built-in referral program.
Yeah.
Everybody, you've got great style, and anybody with even not an eye like I don't have, but I can say, wow, that looks really nice. I wouldn't know how to do it, but that's why you bring yourself along to do it.
Glenn, I've seen your basement design. You have a great eye.
It's impressive. I know it. Well, it's the funny thing about entrepreneurs. One of the things when we first started on this journey of doing this podcast is that, just the trials and tribulations, the struggles of an entrepreneur and what they go through in phases. And without doubt, you are doing exactly what most entrepreneurs do. It's never enough. You're like, well, I'm not busy enough, because I remember specifically last time you're like, how am I going to do all this? And here you are, you're like 10x'd it on everything. So here we go again. So why don't you talk us a little about how you got to that point of going, I think I'm going to just keep going.
Sure. Yeah, we were very overwhelmed the last time we were here. We were still kind of green to, so I had my interior design business for a few years at that point and was starting to get settled in. We were still really green to the Airbnb business, the short-term rental business. And we kind of, you get to a point where you settle in with that. So we found the right people to help us. We're not going down there multiple times a week anymore. That was brutal. It really was.
That, yeah.
And Tony still, even now, is in medical sales. I know a few years ago, you guys were a little bit surprised that he was still doing that. He is still doing that to this day. But that was where we said, this is too much. We did have multiple full-time jobs that we were trying to fit into, each week, and it was too much. So
don't forget the kids.
Don't forget the kids, right? Yes. So we've definitely settled in. Some weeks are crazy still, and I think that's just the life of an entrepreneur. But we have a team of help that has really transformed what we've been able to do and the way we've been able to scale the business. So question then is, at some point you're like, man, we are so busy, this is crazy. And then you're like, well, we got to get more busier and do more things. Well, talk me through how you marketed that between the two of you to figure out what you had to give up or what you had to go acquire to be able to go find the time to go do that. Sure. We had to give up some control. And as an entrepreneur, that's always, that's difficult. I view myself as somewhat of a control freak. And
No way. Oh, no.
I think Tony is too, even if he doesn't want to admit it. We know how to do things within our brand correctly, and that has always been really hard for us to ensure that the other people that are involved in our brand are also going to do those things the way that we would like for them to, and that reflects our brand appropriately. it took a really long time to get a team together, especially like for our Airbnb business, just because the market's a little bit different. The Hocking Hills is a very rural area. It's hard to find good help, but we, through trial and error, we found some really great people. Most notably, we have a handyman that is on property at our places like at least once a week. And we trust him so much, and he's been such an asset to our business. That means Tony doesn't have to go down to, tighten doorknobs and things where, you can't get those hours back. And it's just been very helpful to have someone like that. So
on giving up the control and letting somebody else do the thing, whatever the thing is, what level of acceptance of, like, you would do it at, like, boom, 100%. What did you have to lower that to and still be, okay, that's good enough? It doesn't have to be 100. Is it 95? Was it 80? Was it 50?
I'm still trying to get there.
So you know, we talk about this daily. Like, okay, Julie, that was 80. Someone gave 80%. Like, that's perfect,
Right.
And then I'm like, 80%? Like, that's practically failing in my department, right? And he's like, it's fine,
yes.
So it's a constant conversation.
We have these go rounds where, we'll go down there once every now and again, and our cleaners do a great job. But every now and again, they'll miss something little. It's not big. They do a fantastic job, but they'll leave like the fire pit tongs up on the deck, and I'm like, well, why would they be on the deck? They should be down at the fire pit. But these are things that the guests don't care. That's okay. And I have to let go of that. And I have learned to let go of that. I still, it's a head scratcher, like, for me, because I think I'm a perfectionist and I wonder how things get missed. But we're all human. And I think that's what I always remind myself. And so I've let go a little bit, and things have gone perfectly smoothly. We've never, had a complaint.
That you know of.
That we know of, yes.
We call that in the business OCD. We're just and it's not that we just know how we would like it to be and what our expectation is.
Well, I think she said something really important for entrepreneurs. It's about the brand you're creating, and the only person that takes ownership and accountability of that brand in general are the owners. And so it's really hard to let that control go, because your brand is it's everything you have.
Right.
And they're representing you, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I think if, again, we'll strive to see what that percentage is that's acceptable inside a brand, but
we are lucky. The team that we've found down there takes a lot of pride in our homes. Obviously, they do not belong to them, but I do think that they have a sense of belonging when they are working in our homes. We have merchandise, we have hats and shirts and things, and they wear those things when they're, working on our properties. And I think it helps them to feel like this is where I belong to, and I take pride in that. So
that's building a team and creating a culture that they want to be a part of, right?
Right.
Well, that's just being a good leader and set those expectations. And again, they got to feel like they have a little skin in the game, whatever that is, just pride or whatever, to deliver what you're looking for. And then you got to let them know it, right? Because if you don't, they have no idea.
Absolutely.
That's the hardest part.
But I think we have to take a backtrack a little bit. You were opening your second cabin, I think, when you were here last. So you had one.
Yes.
Was very overwhelming. You were about to do number 2, and you still were doing your interior design, and Tony was still doing medical sales. So what does your full picture look like now?
Okay, so we have since launched a third cabin, and we have a fourth that's launching this summer.
Wow.
Yes. My design business has continued to be very successful. I'm very busy still, but I am pivoting, and I'm going to be rebranding my design business actually at the end of this month. And this is not a secret, but I am going to be changing the name of my interior design business to the Everwoods Interiors, which is a bit fitting as our cabinet business is called the Everwoods Cabins. And I will be expanding my business to offer Airbnb design to other Airbnb hosts nationwide. It's a virtual design service. I do everything from within my office, but there is a huge market for it. There are not a lot of people that are offering interior design services to other short-term rental vacation rental hosts, and there is a huge need. there are just a lot of people who don't know what they're doing design-wise in that sector.
Or over here.
Or residentially either.
Just hang a poster up, you're fine. No.
Mm-hmm. But I have been approached many times for helping others with their Airbnbs. And I was a little hesitant. It didn't feel like it was my specialty. But after doing 3 of them ourselves and kind of seeing what goes into it, I feel like I have a really good grasp on that.
So I got a crazy question. So when you do this Airbnb thing, are you looking for the Southern Ohio vibe in Hocking Hills? Are you like the beach vibe? Are you the lake vibe?
She's going national.
You're going
you
to
go big
the mountains?
or go home.
I'm doing anything and everything. I will do beach homes. I will do mountain homes. I will do desert, Palm Springs.
You're just a natural of understanding the local, and you can just see it and just know it.
Absolutely.
That's a skill set. That's a superpower.
We both don't have that.
Yeah, I know when I see it, but I wouldn't.
But
know
how do you? So the first question that arises is like, what I'm used to is like interacting with someone, coming through the home and getting this vision, and then sure, I can buy whatever you want me to buy. But then it's really the pulling it to like, I'm like, you want that bowl to go where, and how do you drape that out of it? Like, so how are you going to be able to get that touch with going?
It's a good question. Yeah. So I have a mentor that I have been working with, and she has a blueprint essentially for how to go about the perfect start to finish Airbnb design. One of the most important things is from the client, I have to get them to get have you heard of a Matterport? It's basically a 3D walkthrough of the home, which also allows me to have all of the dimensions of every single space so that I know that those aren't going to be incorrect. So I'm buying the right size of furnishings and the appropriate amount of, items for each space.
So the tech guy in me is like, well, what is that? What is that thing? How do they do that? They just walk through with a camera or something?
Yes.
Or what is it?
Yeah. And it's actually something that a lot of real estate agents use in order to, sometimes if you'll be on like realtor.com and you see a home that has a 3D tour, oftentimes they're using like a Matterport. It's kind of like a bird's eye view where you can kind of see each room, and it's sort of almost fully rendered where you're seeing where the stairwells are and where the doors are. And
is this a video or it's an architectural plan of some sort?
You can actually get it in either form. For me, I'm just going to need it almost in like the blueprint form where I'm getting like an overhead view so that I'm able to essentially have a blueprint to what the design is going to need each room. And then to Julie's question in terms of telling people where everything's going to go and make sure that that's perfectly correct. I have a staging planner where it's going to tell you exactly where everything goes, but I also will be on a FaceTime with the host, or if they've hired a property manager to do this for them during that final install to ensure that everything looks perfect.
Move it 2 inches to the left.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It sounds a little monotonous, but it's not as hard as
I think it sounds really interesting because especially as you go kind of big or go home, it's like you're going to be immersed into so many different places and things and vibes. And I mean, I think it sounds so interesting.
You're not going to be bored.
No.
So here's a crazy question. So, as a dude, I'm a functional guy. I want it to be functional, but chicks like it to be, how does it look? How do you blend the two together? Is that something you had to learn how to do, or it just came natural to you, or what do you lean heavily toward more? Is it the function or the form?
Well, it has to be both, and especially when you're talking about an Airbnb vacation rental, because people are very hard on things when they're on vacation. And if it's not functional, I always say buy nice or buy thrice. You will buy it 3 different times if you don't buy something nice the first time. So we want it to be beautiful and aesthetic because that's what draws people to want to stay at a certain property. But also you can't have furniture that's going to fall apart and things like that, right? So you want them to function for the vacation guest that's coming to stay. It has to be sturdy, good quality items, which I do in my residential design business too. I'm not cheaping out and buying, things that aren't going to last people a long time. But it's 2 different types of client, right? A residential client is going to live differently than your vacation rental guest is going to live in a place that they're staying for 2 or 3 nights or a week. they tend to be a lot harder on items. So you are oftentimes, there are certain pieces I'm definitely going for function over fashion in that sector. And I mean, there are times when I'm also going for function over fashion in residential too. Of course, remodels, everything needs to be functional. When I'm setting up and laying out a kitchen, it needs to be functional for the homeowner. So function is always top of my brain, but it's amplified when you're working on an Airbnb because it has to stand up to potentially 8 kids that are going to be in your rental with just 1 or 2 sets of parents
paying attention.
It's a lot. Yeah.
So I think I was just thinking this is probably the hardest thing you have to do with the owner if you're dealing direct with them is they want it to look like the house that they want to go use on occasion as a vacation, and they'll use it occasionally, right? Generally. But at the same time, it's really not about that. It's about designing it for the guests. And you probably have to talk them off the ledge of like, I know you think that's going to look awesome and you want it that way, but that is not going to work for all these guests. Is that a hard conversation?
It is and it isn't. I've had to have that conversation with myself so many times that I know that it's a bit of a battle. Yes, I want to have an ivory couch in my short-term rentals, right? Because it looks beautiful. But is an ivory couch, does that make sense when there's going to be
mud
8 kids coming in from hiking in the Hocking Hills in April when it rained for the past 2 straight weeks? It's a terrible idea. So I can give all of my clients some real life experiences. And even where I went wrong with some of our first cabins, some things that just functionally have not worked out. And like for beach clients, there are things that won't work out because of the sand and the salty air and things like that. There's fabrics that just won't work. So I know all of these things. And sometimes, the owners of these homes, they don't know these things. And that's why they're hiring me.
Seems like you got to like click a switch when you're like, okay, I'm like mountains, Rockies. Okay, here I got to go think this zone.
No air conditioners in the mountains, right?
Lack of water.
Yeah, it's all things that you have to.
And do you have like obviously, again, I'm just making a joke, but you probably have chunks in your brain that are dedicated to this that you can tap in to pull it out. But do you have like standardized plans so you don't have to remember everything? Do you have just like this is the themes we look for? It's all up there.
It's all up here.
So that means you're always going to be involved.
Yes, I'll always be involved. I do have specific items that I can use, like large scale furnishings that I know are super high quality, they're functional, they're going to last. And I have all of those basically saved. So I don't know if this is what you're asking, but I do have certain items that I can use over and over again, and they're not going to look the same in everybody's homes. I'm not just replicating in each new home that I go to, but I have some like tried and true items that work for the vast majority of people.
But I think that's what people want, right?
Right.
Because you've tried and trued them, and you've been like, that one didn't work, but this one has worked 4 times over.
Well, I think that's what I mean. Like you have like a kind of call it your base template for each
region or type, and then you can bolt on from there based on how things go, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So that's what I was looking for. Like, you got to just start from scratch and go, what do I do? And you got to tap into here. That would seem exhausting to try to like switch gears on every design.
It's fun.
So I want to know about, we're talking a lot about this design, but I want to go to the cabins. So you're about to launch your second cabin. When we did it this last time, what was that one? Was that the
A-frame?
A-frame. And how's that went? Obviously wildly great.
It's great. It's funny because the A-frame is busier than the lodge. So our first cabin that we launched was the lodge, and then the second was the A-frame. They have two totally different looks, interior-wise. The lodge is, all white on the inside and bright and airy, and the A-frame is more of that like rustic cabin feel, but still with a modern twist. The A-frame is booked almost 100% of the time at a lower nightly rate. It sleeps less people. It's just got a little bit of a different vibe. The lodge is a little bit more of like that boutique luxury stay. We consider all of our cabins to be luxury stays, but it really has that wow factor when you walk in, with the big wall of windows, and it's a higher price point. So we are not necessarily 100% booked every single month. We are, I believe 6 months out of the year. But it's been great. It's nice. They're like a yin and a yang, both on the same property there. A lot of times we have people who book them together. family reunions or like yoga retreats. And then people tend to gather over in the lodge just because it's a little bit more open. But we kind of love that we have like 2 cabins that are both really high end, but they have a very different look. So something that suits, both types of people.
So what's the third one?
The third one is a couple's cabin. It just sleeps 2 guests. It's called the Alpine. We bought this one. It was existing. So we did not build it.
Not on the same property?
It's not on the same property. It's about 10 minutes away, and it's on 11 acres, which is opportunity for us to continue to build. So we are almost finished building our 4th cabin, which will be next door to the Alpine, but also private. It's 11 acres, so they're not on top of each other. We don't ever want that to be the case. It'll also be a couple's cabin, so it'll just sleep 2 guests. A little bit of a different vibe for the 4th one. We sort of have gone with this black exterior for all of our cabins. This is going to be much more like a Scandinavian feel. We saw a market for it. There aren't really any cabins down in the Hocking Hills that have that vibe yet. So we're going to bring it to the area and see how it goes.
Well, I see those out in the mountains though, where it's like all glass and like the bed, like it's very like simple, but like you feel like you're immersed into wherever you
Connected
are.
with the nature, yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And we have probably our biggest window yet on all of our cabins. We have really big windows on all of our cabins, but this 4th cabin will have the largest window of all of them. And without giving away too much, we actually have on social media have not shown a single photo of the build process. It's just going to be a surprise when we're ready to launch it.
The build up.
Is there a 5th in the works on that property?
I'm sure they're all going to start with 11 acres. You should probably have 7 or 8 cabins on there. It'll be awesome.
This land is a little bit more open. It's not as wooded as we would like for it to be. So we're going to do some hefty landscaping, and then we will see if it makes sense to have a 5th. But we don't ever want anything to feel crammed. We don't want people to feel like they don't have a private space to stay in when they're staying with us.
Is Tony going to drive the excavator and the dozer to move the dirt?
Yeah, he does. He wants
to
so bad. He right now we have like these rolling hills, and the weeds are kind of starting to get high. And he's talking about, oh, should I get a brush hog? I'm like, we could actually just hire somebody to do it one time, and we probably wouldn't need it again until this fall. So I don't think we need to buy one.
You know what's funny is when you inevitably when you are doing something that you love, there's the hard work and the the anxiety and doing all the things, and then you're going to find these couple things that are like, oh my God, that sounds like so much fun, right?
Oh my gosh.
And he has got to be like, I get to get some equipment and move some dirt. Like he's the happiest guy in the world, and you can bring a little bit of a spin on that to just do something fun with it, and it will change the whole perspective probably.
But I think, financially, Maura's probably correct.
This has nothing to do with the money.
I think I'm right, but it really doesn't. He ended up getting a 4-wheeler and all of these things to attach to the back of the 4-wheeler to spray down weeds. And we actually have like this, there's a little bit of like a low-lying creek, which when it rains a bunch, it turns into like a swampy area. And we found out there's beavers back there, and he's very excited about that. And he's going to try to figure out how he can go about potentially
building some dams,
trapping them, seeing what he's gonna.
So when does this 4th one launch? Do we know?
We don't have an exact date for it. We do think that the build itself will be done in June, and then it generally takes us about 4 to 6 weeks from the time that the build is completed to get it fully furnished.
So right in time for fall.
The hot tub set, to get all the string lights up, to get the door lock on. There's just so many little things afterwards, but yeah, it'll be perfect and ready for fall. Again, I'm just grinning because as the entrepreneurial journey goes, it's like if you either grow or you die. That's a rule. I mean, that just has to happen.
When you were here last time, you guys were like, I don't think we can do one more.
You were tapped out, and then here we are.
And I remember you saying you guys had thought about selling your plans.
Mm-hmm.
Where is that at?
So we do sell the plans for our lodge, which we actually had an influencer stay at the lodge just after we launched, and we had so many people reach out to us after that wanting the plans. We started taking down all of their email addresses, and we had the plans created in a format that we could actually turn around and sell them. And I think we've sold about 10 sets of plans through our website. It's just on our website where you can actually go to book our cabins. So that's been nice. Like every now and then one of those orders comes through and
another revenue stream.
Yeah, this is great. Yeah.
Well, so we back to the thing of what did you have to give up so you could then expand other than trusting some other people? What else had to happen? Like your mindset, like financially, like what are the things that you had to check off to go, okay, we can go do this now?
Mm-hmm. We had to have, we had a lot of hard conversations about how overwhelming things were becoming and that we would like to continue expanding the cabin business, but were we mentally and physically able to do that? And the answer at the time that we had that conversation, or the first time that we had the conversation, was no. We don't feel like that we have the mental capacity to do that. So we knew some things had to change, and that's where, like, in talking about finding the right people, sometimes that just takes time, right? And we finally got to a place where we have a trusted team, and that's helped so much. And I think that kind of gave us the sigh of relief to say, okay, we can do this now. We have the right people. We have backups to the right people. And now we can breathe knowing that if something goes wrong, we don't have to drop everything and drive down there, on a Saturday night at 10 p.m. If the septic starts stinking at one of the cabins and it's because somebody clogged a toilet and they didn't realize, just these things happen. But we have people that will go take care of all of those things for us. And it saves us a 3-hour round trip, right? So the team really was the key to feeling like we could expand. We also we had to give up things in order to continue on to purchase this third cabin. We actually sold one of our long-term rentals here. We were in a situation where the tenants were turning over after they had been there for about 6 years. The whole place was going to need remodeled. We had just gotten our Franklin County property tax assessment where our property taxes were going to go up in such a huge way. And this particular home was just not in a place where we could really maximize rents to a place where we would be making much money on it. So we felt like there was something better we could do with that money. So we sold that property and rolled it into a 1031 exchange, which I don't know, I'm sure you guys are familiar with, in order to purchase this third property and the land, which will pay dividends to us, and it will multiply the amount of money we could have made just holding on to that long-term rental. So I think that was a place where we had to feel comfortable kind of pivoting and saying, okay, we started this journey a long time ago with just the long-term rentals, but this has been it's a stepping stone to get us to this next level, something that's a bit more lucrative, and it's kind of like where our brand is headed at this point.
Those decisions, were those the two of you came up with? Did you hire an advisor to help you with that and give you choices, or did you come up with it on your own?
We came up with it on our own. We've seen and heard of a lot of different friends. It was the first time that we've ever done a 1031 exchange, but we had heard of a lot of other friends within the business utilizing that. So we said, you know what, I think it's time. It kind of worked out timing perfectly because they were moving out in August. This property was for sale. We were able to close in September on the new property. We had an intermediary, obviously, who helped us through that. And it all worked out great.
How about that?
Mm-hmm. So does your team have the capacity as, your brand grows to be able to take on, all the cabins?
Maybe. I'm not sure yet. I think even though we'll have been hosting for 4 years this August, we do still feel like we are learning every day. I don't want to say that we're going to, I said this the last time, that I don't want to tell you that we're going to continue to expanding to where we have 10, 12, 15 cabins, because I don't know if that's what's on the horizon. But we are certainly more open to it than we were before, just in knowing that we have a really good operation in place now, and we feel that we probably could if the opportunity presented itself.
Yeah, once you get the process set up, the system, just plug and play. It's just how much you can handle, right?
Mm-hmm. When you guys have done so much to evolve your rentals, like when we went there the first time, it was great. We had a big family thing. But then the second time we kind of went with friends, and I was celebrating my 21st birthday again. And you were like, we can get a chef and you can get groceries delivered. There was even pizza delivered. Like, you had all these things.
Sauna.
and a sauna. It just felt like, although we had been there, it was a completely different experience.
I'm really glad that you brought that up because I wouldn't have thought to bring it up today, but that has been huge for us. It's simple things that have set our properties apart from others. And it was just as simple as reaching out to a few local vendors. Essentially, we're offering like a full guest experience now. So we offer shuttle service, if you want to do a winery tour or a brewery tour while you're staying, a network of personal chefs to come to the cabin for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. They also will meal prep for you. Like they can actually come to the cabin before you stay, do all your meal prep, leave everything in containers so that you're set to go for the weekend, provide you with trail provisions, things like that. And then, we have in-cabin spa services as well. And maybe you wouldn't be surprised because you kind of saw it firsthand, but how many people reach out to us and say, this is amazing that you offer this. There's like no one else that's really doing that. And that's why we chose to stay at your property. What we just had to make sure was that all of these people that we were inviting to become part of our team were vetted and working at the highest level each and every time. So we actually use the personal chefs ourselves first, and we use the in-cabin massage ourselves. We have not used the brewery or the winery tour guy, but we've met him and he's fantastic and he comes very highly recommended. So these are all things that we have needed to do to pivot our business because the Hocking Hills is like growing at a super rapid rate right now. And they are things that set us apart. And then the saunas, of course, we aren't the only ones that have them. They have been an absolute pain in the ass.
Oh boy.
I can imagine.
People don't know how to work them.
Nope.
Right.
And they aren't the strongest, they're in those barrels. So they're not made for like the vacation rental. They're made to be in a person's backyard,
Correct.
Not a vacation rental. They're not like commercial grade. So we've had issues with them, but it's a really good add-on. They look really cool. They're out in the, with the trees and the backdrop and things like that. And it's images like that draw people to come stay. They you paint that picture for them and they're like, wow, that looks really cool. I want to come stay there.
You definitely hired a good interior designer to figure all that out. I think we got a note on that. Yes.
Well, no, I just think, as busy entrepreneurs, when you go to get away, not only do you want to unplug necessarily, like I don't want to have to check my email every 2 minutes to make sure I'm staying on top of it.
But I know that you do while you go away.
It's impossible not to.
But you're looking for that, like, I don't have to think about it. Like, we're all at decision fatigue as entrepreneurs. And when you go to your cabins, the value in that is, here's the list of people for this, here's the list of people for this, here's the list of people for this. And you even said, I'm happy to reach out to them if you want me to, and it's like, well, I can handle that part. But I just think
some people can't.
I'm sure.
It's crazy.
But I just think that's what people are looking for at this point. Like, it's just, when you go to that particular region, like, you want to unplug, you want to be present, and maybe you don't want to have to think about, what you're going to cook or where your meal comes from, because quite frankly, you're in the middle of nowhere. It's not like living here where there are Kroger's every 2 miles, right?
Absolutely.
And so I think that pivot is huge.
Yeah. Our goal has kind of been to say we're not just an Airbnb. We're almost marrying the Airbnb and the hotel experience, where you're getting something in between, where you have this space that's a whole lot cooler than a hotel, but you have like the luxuries of what you could have at a hotel, right? So you feel like you're not just out there on your own. Like, let's throw in another frozen pizza tonight, which there's nothing wrong with that, because we do that when we travel and when we're in Airbnbs regularly. But yeah, to have the option of the personal chef is
just
awesome.
an experience.
Yeah.
Did you have some sort of epiphany? Again, there's this. It's some people just have I don't know if call it the genius, or they just can foresee what's going to happen and go, aha, that's what people need. Like when you first started it wasn't going to be like that, right? And then what did you see? Is it something you're like, rentals, the rate isn't, I don't have enough, my days under rental are not enough. What do I got to do to differentiate myself? Well, what was the process to go, I got to do something which is radically different than everybody else?
Sure.
Because you got to be a disruptor, right? So as an entrepreneur, that's a common theme, right? So when did you have that, oh my gosh, this is what I need to be doing?
So at the end of fall is always our busiest season. So we get through fall, we're 100% booked at all of our cabins from September through November. Then come December, your books kind of fall apart, right? We noticed this past year that our average nightly rate was a whole lot lower than it was in years past. And I simply believe that that's due to the market saturation that's happening down in the Hocking Hills, because there's just so many places to choose from. So I had told Tony, and this was after we had already implemented the saunas. That was one thing I just felt was a differentiator. But I said, I think there's some other things that we can do that don't involve necessarily a huge investment on our end. There's things that are free. They're free to us. We just have to find the right people to help us continue, to build. And it wasn't, the saunas were a huge financial investment. This was just vetting the proper people. So it was free. I mean, it took some time, right? But it was great to get to know these people who are able to help our business, and we're totally hands off. They book through a separate website if they want the personal chef for the in-cabin massage or facial. The Cork and Tap is the name of the wine excursions. It's all done through their platforms then. So it's really no skin off our back. We're just facilitating. And starting next month, we'll also be adding a photographer who can take family photos, or, if you're coming with all your girlfriends, she will come to the property, to any of our properties, and do professional photos, which I think is kind of awesome. Just if a family's there for the weekend, they can, they have the woods as their backdrop and take their family photos for the year.
Dudes would never think of that. We'd be thinking, well, get some chainsaws, a log splitter, get hike in the woods, maybe do some deer hunting down there. You guys have got these.
How about some shooting?
All that. Yeah, people do that sometimes down there.
Yeah,
I didn't realize it was so illegal.
It's a huge liability when there's guests staying at the other cabin and they're hiking behind there.
Who knew after you proper safety that somebody would still be upset? But it happens sometimes. So I don't know who would do such a thing.
I don't either.
The kids loved it.
Luckily, it doesn't happen very often.
No, but some idiots, it's not in the disclaimer anywhere, but
No, it's not in the rental agreement like 6 times.
Who reads that? Let's be honest.
No, I can tell you almost no one. So
Yes.
you guys aren't alone.
Yeah, that was unintended consequence, but yeah, it was all safe for sure.
Yeah,
but no, so again, it's great to, any parting things you want to talk about?
We have to talk about what else does the future hold?
Well,
Maura and Tony are not happy with where they're at.
I know they're not. Look at the vibe today is way different than before. They were just like, we are just done. And here she's
chill.
like, I got all this going.
We're, Tony, I want to say Tony's not involved, but he is. He's so involved. He does all the financial stuff for the cabins, and he always says I'm just the cheap labor, right? But actually, me and a girlfriend who she also has a cabin down in the Hocking Hills. We've gotten together over the course of the last year or two and just recognized that there's a need in the market for more software efficiencies within some of these platforms that we have to use in order to run our business. Of course, people have to be able to book online and things like this. So we saw a giant gap in the market for being able to essentially market to all of the people that are staying within your cabin rather than just the person who books. So when somebody books, you tend to just get their email address, and you have no idea who else is staying at your place, which is a little bit of a scary thought. But now we are creating something that will really change that, and it will allow us to market back to all of the people that are staying within our places, and we can, we'll be able to sell that to anybody internationally as well. But I won't say too much about that. She is leading the charge on that. She has sort of asked me to come in as a salesperson, as somebody who, both runs an Airbnb as well as understands the need in the market for this, and is, savvy with sales as well. So kind of marrying the two and seeing where that goes. So maybe the next time I come in, I'll have a lot more to say about that.
That's what I feel like we needed to know that. So in 2 years, we come back and we know you're on your 9th cabin.
Data.
You have how many people in your interior design business that's helping to run your international
Yes.
Design services.
Yeah.
And then, you're going to be a huge software developer, and we'll wait for the next hook for the next time.
Yes. I will not be the software developer. I always say I'm technologically I have no idea what's going on, but I will definitely sell the crap out of that.
Find the people, you can sell the product if you believe in it. And again, you're not only a user, but you can definitely represent to sell it.
Right.
Well, that's exciting. Well, I guess it's we definitely fits the profile of our typical entrepreneurial guest.
I don't even have to ask the big question that I always ask.
No, we already know the
We
answer.
already
She's
know
never
the-
stopping. But again, the pivots, the epiphanies, the have to give up control. All the things that an entrepreneur has to be to get to that next level, to break through that ceiling, to get there. You're demonstrating all of them, so well done.
Thank
And,
you.
Tell Tony he should buy the bulldozer.
Tell Tony we want him in here next time.
He needs the bulldozer.
He asked if he should come today, and I said no.
Oh, we would have loved it.
I thought he was the face of the company. What's going on
Right?
here?
Well,
This
his
is,
face right now, he just had nasal surgery last week.
Oh,
So he
he's
just got
feeling
his
good.
cast off yesterday. So his nose is like twice the size that it usually is. So knowing that we were being video recorded today, he
That would've
probably
been
would have
great.
dipped out right when we got here.
No, that's
We could have put him over there. and He could have just pinged in every now and
Next time.
Well, Maura, it's definitely a pleasure having you on. Thanks for taking time to come over and talk about all the things, and hopefully our guests will find some nuggets out of that. And it's appreciate you having you here again. I'm
Okay,
Glenn
well,
Harper.
first we need to have her give her plug for the cabins, and if she's got a new website, what does that look like? How can
What
we
am I
find
missing
you?
here? I thought we already did that, but that's okay. Hit us.
Well, I appreciate that. We own the Everwoods Cabins in the Hocking Hills. It's just www.theeverwoods.com. My business will be changing names to the Everwoods Interiors, so that should be pretty easy for everybody to remember if they know the Everwoods Cabins. And my website will be as such, theeverwoodsinteriors.com. That will be launching on the 30th of this month.
And don't forget, she's not too busy to take care of you. She'll do a great job. Loves a good project. All right. Well, thanks again. I'm Glenn Harper.
Julie Smith.